So if you have done the previous 8 videos, then if you've done all the work, then hey, you have prepared your asylum case. So congratulations. I want to talk about what to expect next. So now that you have filed your case, now that you have actually submitted it with immigration, what's going to happen is you are first going to get receipt notices. You're going to be mailed a notice that says, hey, we have received your I-589 application for asylum. That is a good thing. Typically, it's hard to predict these days, especially with COVID and things like that. Typically, I would say, 6 to 8 weeks after you file the case, you'll get the receipt notice back to show that, yes, they've received it. Make sure that you filed it to the correct location based on your address. Look at the instructions. And if you did, then great. You should get a receipt notice back. If you don't get a receipt, that's a problem. Confirm that you're tracking. When you mail it out, always send it certified or through FedEx with tracking, so that you can prove that it arrived to the right place. But if everything went well, you should get a receipt notice, and that receipt notice will have a case number on it, and it will also have an A number on it that you'll want to take good note of those things. That is how you're going to communicate with immigration from that point on. The receipt notice is what you want. That will be coming in, again, 6 to 8 weeks, typically, sometimes even sooner, depending on your region of the country and the service center you're working with. The second step is you will be sent a notice to go do your biometrics. Biometrics is, there's an application support center near you, and you'll go in and your photo taken and your fingerprints taken, and it's just like on a scanner. You got to put your index finger, and they will confirm your identity and run background checks. And there's nothing to worry about. You go, you show up, you're on time. You have your notice. They process it. They stamp that notice, and you're going to want to hang on to that stamp. It's important for your work permit to show that you've complied with it. And you really have to go to biometrics, because if you don't, your case can be deemed abandoned just for not showing up to the biometrics appointment, and they can deny your case and send you to deportation proceedings just on that basis alone. If you can't, for whatever reason, if you need to reschedule it for whatever reason, read the bottom of the notice. There is a way to send a request for a different date. Biometrics notice is nothing to worry about, right? I mean, you typically go, you're there 15 minutes. Nothing to lose sleep over. It's nothing to be stressed about. And it's actually a great thing. Your case is in process. Once that happens, then your case is going to be pending now for a while, depending on where your case is filed in the United States and how many cases that office currently has. But my office is in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I'll tell you right now, the San Francisco Bay Area's asylum office is backlogged. There is a long waiting list right now. And so if we file the case and you get your biometrics done and stuff like that, your case is going to be pending for a long time. Then current regulations say you got to wait a year, 365 days. And after 365 days after applying, you can if you still don't have a decision, you can request a work permit. And I have a separate video, and we can talk about how to request your own work permit. Step 3 is the work permit. So then what's next? Step 4 is the interview. So again, step 1, the receipts. Step 2, biometrics. Step 3 is your work permit. Step 4 is the interview. Your interview on your asylum case is important. I do highly, highly, highly recommend going in with legal representation, and you have the right not to, but you do have the right to have a lawyer there with you, and lawyers can prepare you and practice and make sure that all the laws, legal issues are updated, knowing any new cases that may have come out recently, because asylum law changes as new cases happen. At the interview, what I recommend doing is read through your I-589, have sticky notes. If there's anything that you need to update about your life, your addresses, your work history, maybe there's something else that may have changed in your life since the day you filed it. Well, before the interview, you'll want to go in ready to update that information to the officer. Or if there was a mistake, you can clarify things. all right, before the interview. But you'll want to prepare yourself for the interview. Go through the form meticulously. Go through your declaration meticulously. Go through every single piece of evidence, everything that was originally filed with your case, go through it. Because the immigration officer, it's all they've reviewed about your situation. And so they're going to ask you questions about it. You want to be ready, study everything that you put in your form right before the interview so that it's fresh in your mind and you can explain every single detail in it to the immigration officer. If you go through it with a lawyer who's got a keen eye, who's going to be like, hey, the officer is definitely going to ask you about this. They're definitely going to ask you about that. Like a lawyer that's done this before can give you some good advice about, hey, how should you say this? How should you explain it? Okay, great. That's the interview. In the interview, it's typically 2, 3, 4, sometimes more hours long. And the officer is going to ask you all kinds of questions. And you're going to want to think about, hey, do you want to be testifying in English? Do you feel comfortable doing it in English? Do you want to do it through an interpreter? Look at the local regulations about the office where you're at. In the old days, we always had to bring our own interpreter with us. Recently, because of COVID here, they're saying, hey, don't bring an interpreter with us. We want to limit the amount of physical people here. And so the asylum office is now calling in interpreters. That's a detail that you'll want to check with your office. Often on the interview notice, it will say you'll receive an interview notice with the date and time of your interview, and then it'll have instructions there about bringing an interpreter, or maybe don't bring an interpreter, there'll be one provided. When you file your case, you're just submitting copies of all of the evidence. When you file your case, you're just submitting copies, all right? So at the interview is where you take all your originals, bring all your original passport, your original birth certificate, all your original evidence. Take it to your interview. And you're going to just want to be ready to explain your life, your situation, why you're afraid for your life to return to your home country, and why your case warrants a grant of asylum. Step 5, which is the very end, 4 weeks after the interview, you have a date to come back in and to pick up your decision. And sometimes the news is happy and you win asylum and everybody's happy, right? And yay, you won, you can celebrate. You could go through the process of start filling out your work permit as an asylee, petitioning family members if they qualify for it under the form I-730. If you have like a spouse that's still overseas, for example, or that wasn't included in your case. If you win, it's great, all good news. If in that final decision, step 5, the decision, if you quote unquote lose, it's not lost. Typically what it is it's referred to the immigration court. And typically what you would have there then is a notice to appear, and you would start the process in immigration court proceedings. And that does not mean your case is denied. You have a second opportunity to fight your case and to explain to a judge that, hey, just because the asylum officer didn't approve my case, that doesn't mean I'm not eligible. I still believe in my case. I still believe I'm eligible for asylum benefits in the US, and you'll have removal proceedings against you in immigration court. That's the process. That's the way it works. Sometimes you could get a rejection notice instead of a receipt notice. They could say, hey, we couldn't accept this filing because you forgot to fill in one of the boxes, or you forgot to sign it, or something was not legible, or whatever the case might be. If you get one of those, either talk to a lawyer right then or just read carefully the rejection notice, fix whatever thing they needed fixed, get it back in the mail. Really, that's it. That's the process. Thank you so much for being with me. I hope all of this process, all of this stuff has been useful and helpful for you. I really hope it was. And yeah, best of luck with your case and your application. And I hope this was useful. And if it was useful, give us feedback about it. So thanks so much. Again, my name's Otis Landerholm, Landerholm Immigration, A.P.C, where we fight for your American dream. Best of luck with your case. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.